Hi everyone and good afternoon. We are here today with Kelly Roegies, who joined our board of advisor at Furt'Her for 2024. We are very happy to have you, Kelly, on board and very happy to be able to interview you today to understand your path into Web3, your interest, and how you see the future of Web3. So first of all, can you just let us know a little bit about your background and about your interest into Web3?
Yeah, thank you so much, Lorena and Nino, for having me. Super excited to join the board as well further. So a little bit about me. I'm half Dutch, half Belgian. I work full-time as a communications manager here in Brussels. So most of my day-to-day work is actually all about Web2 stuff, like the usual, keeping our social media up to date, looking after our website, that kind of thing. Web3 was thus completely a new world for me. Funny thing, I first started hearing about blockchain and Bitcoin around 2012 because my then boyfriend was like a huge tech geek and he explained a lot. And I thought it was cool, interesting, but it didn't really stick with me. So my real journey in this space, I would say, started a couple of years ago, and it was my podcast habit that got me really into things. I'm always listening to podcasts when I'm going to work, doing chores, and I started hearing some podcasts. I think it was from Bloomberg Technology, mentioning blockchain. And frankly, at first, I didn't understand much at all. But the important thing is that my interest was piqued, and I started to listen to more podcasts, read some books, and eventually started attending networking events here in Brussels, including Furt'Her events. And yeah, well, here I am. I'm now totally pulled into this fascinating world.
But it's interesting to see that at first sight it looks very complex as a topic, and it could intimidate someone who is not familiar with the trend, the sector. But when you start to dig into it, you start to understand also why it is interesting to understand the technology and what it can bring. So it's good to see that you went further than just the complexity of the first layer of the different naming, technical background. So it's very interesting to know that it's okay, and it may be a reaction of everyone that at first sight it's complex, but then when you start to dig, then it becomes very interesting. So it's good also to remind everyone that it's okay to find it complex at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely, because it is complex, right?
Yeah.
Especially if we don't have a technical background. So
And
I
on
think
top
you
of
make
that,
a really
yeah,
good
and
point.
even if we don't have a technical background, it didn't stop us from willing to learn more about it. So, and it's possible. Okay, it takes time, but and curiosity, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would have to say that the one thing that really inspired my passion for this space and my willingness to dig deeper was attending events, because it's one thing to read about the topic and to listen to podcasts and so forth. But it's really another thing to be in a room with people talking about blockchain, its potential impact and their projects, and to be in a room with people of different levels of knowledge, but are all interested in this field and discussing real projects, sharing successes, challenges, and enthusiasm. I think it's what's really infectious and what propelled me to start digging deeper into this space.
Indeed, yeah.
That's so nice to hear. Because as you mentioned, like listening to podcasts, going to networking events that really like inspired you to your passion for Web3. But like, could you remember any like memorable experience that you had when you first take the steps into the realm of Web3?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's not one single experience that I recall that was, shaping me, but I think there was this one meetup by Brussels DAO They organize every first Wednesday of the month events here in Brussels. And there I met some really cool people, and they started telling me about DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. And it was the first time I heard of them. And yeah, they kind of gave me the basics. And I think that got me really excited. And it also, yeah, became one of my main interests in this field.
That's amazing, yeah, because it's when you see other people motivated that you also get into it, into this enthusiasm with them. And this is also something I was willing to ask you. So you saw some potential and you saw some innovation into this technology, but what is for you the game-changing part of Web3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the biggest game changers, I think, is the shift from centralized control to a decentralized framework. Yeah. Right. This puts more power, if you will, in the hands of web users regarding their data, identity, and also financial transactions. So I think one of the big examples is social media. So in a Web3 world, rather than centralized big companies like Meta holding and controlling all your data, decentralized social networks, one example is Mastodon, for example, empower you to control your own information. So you decide who can see your posts, who access your personal details, and in some cases, you can even decide how your data is monetized and receive some revenue from that. And then there is, of course, decentralized finance, which is more commonly known as DeFi. And this is when you engage in financial activities like lending, borrowing, investing directly via blockchain technology. So this is a system that operates without the need for a bank or another financial intermediary. Now, of course, this space still has many pitfalls. Unfortunately, there's a lot of scams out there, so you have to be super careful. But in an ideal world, this represents a more transparent and accessible financial realm in which basically anyone with internet access can participate in these activities, right, without all the conditions that banks commonly impose on you. So I think the shift from centralized to decentralized is really the defining characteristic of Web3.
Yeah. So regarding the Web3, we were wondering if you could tell us more about your own project, which is Impact Zone, so that it's more known for people and for our listeners.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. So Impact Zone, it's formerly called Impactopia, but we rebranded. It's really a passion project that I'm working on with a couple of friends that I met through Brussels DAO. So our goal with Impact Zone is to create a community where people come together to explore and experiment with new governance models and innovative ways through blockchain to monitor impacts, particularly of common good projects and other technologies that can make organizations more efficient. So we are not targeting only Web3 people, right? We are inviting cooperatives, collectives, and other groups that are not typically involved in blockchain, because we believe that the ideas behind decentralization, like shared decision making, new ways of working together, is very useful for these types of organizations in particular. And so far, we've been mainly focused on building a community through Telegram and on X, where the interaction has been pretty amazing. We hosted many dozens of discussions on X with leaders in this space, which sparked, conversations, insights. And I think what we want to do next is organizing virtual and in-person workshops to dive deeper into the nuts and bolts of decentralized systems, and also build a digital library where we collect all this information and where people can upload case studies, tutorials, and so on. The challenge, though, of our project, I think the vision is there, but we need to, find the time and resources to dedicate to this project, because we have full-time jobs on top of it. But I'm really excited about it, and I invite you all to follow us on X _impact zone, or hit me up if you want to join the Telegram community.
Great. Yes. Thank you for inviting more people to join and be aware of this initiative, which is quite great. And in terms of explaining in simple terms what is a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, earlier you clearly mentioned that the game changing was going from centralized to decentralized application, organization. And here we talk about not only decentralized finance or not a decentralized application, but about decentralized organization. So going from traditional organization to decentralized organization. And in your own terms, in simple terms, for people who are not familiar with this change or this evolution, could you maybe explain how it is in real life, what the change would be?
Yeah, so maybe to take a step back and briefly explain what is a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. So basically that's a digital organization that is run by code, instead of people. It uses blockchain technology to make decisions and manage assets, and members, they vote on proposals of changing things or running projects, usually using tokens, so cryptocurrencies that can be native to the DAO, and the code then can execute the decision. So it's a way of working together without, again, the theme of decentralization, without a central authority. And when it comes to the main difference between DAOs and traditional businesses, that lies in the governance. So DAOs, they operate on a democratic model where decisions are made collectively by members. And this is, of course, in contrast with traditional businesses where you have a hierarchical governance structure. You might have a CEO, a board, and so on. So a DAO offers more transparency and engagement in a way. Though I'm not saying that every business should transition to becoming a DAO, right? Because not all businesses are suitable to this new model. But I think definitely it's useful for businesses to look into some of the ways DAO operate and to kind of cherry pick what could work for them.
And would you advise then companies who would like to implement that kind of governance on how to set up this digital governance?
Well, I think that's the long-term view of what Impact Zone wants to do, yes. But we're not there yet.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you mentioned that DAOs, they offer more transparency, but however, not all businesses are suitable for it. Regarding this, what could be the future trends?
Yeah.
With regards of DAOs?
Yeah. I think one of the important challenges, and also something that will shape trends going forward, is that DAOs operate in much legal uncertainty. It's kind of like the legal Wild West, because they operate globally. There is no single person or persons accountable, so you have issues of responsibility and liability. And I think as DAOs grow in popularity and influence, they will attract more attention from regulators worldwide. I think we already kind of see that happening in the EU a little bit. So this could mean that eventually we have clearer rules and guidelines tailored how DAOs operate, and that will have to shape also some of their activities to ensure that they comply with these new regulations. And one thing that's interesting as well is that DAOs are already decentralized, but they are starting to experiment more and more with different governance models in an effort to become even more decentralized and run more effectively. For example, you have Optimism Collective. It's a DAO connected to the Optimism Protocol. I mean, I'm not going to explain, it's a bit technical. You can look it up, but it's a DAO focused on building public goods profitable. And this DAO runs with 2 levels of governance. You have one where the token holders of Optimism, they vote on changes in how the protocol is run. And then you have another governance level where the people that contribute to the ecosystem, such as developers, they get to vote on which public good projects get funding through the DAO. So you have 2 separate decision-making bodies to kind of balance power, and because these different groups have different interests. So I think that's becoming a bit of a trend. And finally, with the global focus on sustainability and the urgency of the climate crisis, I think DAOs will be increasingly used to support and fund initiatives in this area, right? That's a kind of broader trend of using blockchain technology for public good, and a global trend in general, I would say.
Indeed, because it's a reach without border. So it's very interesting for those decentralized organization, to reach people from everywhere without any border and have an impact globally. So it's quite interesting, and it's interesting also that there is a trial period of testing which how to regulate, how to govern best, how to moderate those digital governance. So it's quite interesting to see that you follow up and you know how it is evolving. It's very interesting to listen. And in terms of since you are in that sphere and you follow up on all those different topics, you also have a podcast. And what kind of topics can we get when we subscribe to your podcast?
Yes, so we do have podcasts on Spotify, but our main focus is running X Spaces, so 1 hour kind of Twitter, what previously called Twitter Spaces, which in a way are mini podcasts, but a little bit more interactive because people can ask questions. So what we touch on mainly is we talk to leaders of DAOs, grassroots organizations, and social impact projects. For example, in one of our spaces, we hosted the founder of an Indian-based collective called Atlantis, which specializes in blockchain tools for social impact projects and green enterprises. And then we explored together how these tools can be leveraged to verify the impact of charity project on blockchain. But we also had a chat and collaboration with Crypto Curiosas, which is a similar organization to Furt'Her, actually, all about empowering women in South America to onboard them in Web3. And we discussed the challenges of bringing women on board, particularly in the global South, because those challenges are a little bit different from, here in Western Europe. So the goal of these spaces is to inspire people to kind of dig deeper into it, and also to connect people together, right? Often, you have people talking to each other, listeners, and they follow up with the guest speaker afterwards and see how they can work together. And I think that's really cool. And if you want to know more about the topic of how blockchain can be used for social goods, meaning projects that want to address climate change or poverty and so on, then of course check out our X Spaces. But also I would really highly recommend on Spotify this podcast called the Green Pill podcast. They also had Vitalik on there as a guest, and they I think every week they address these topics in a really great podcast with top speakers. So definitely check that out if you're interested.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for the recommendation. That's very good also to share all your advices about how to educate ourselves in this space and what to listen. It's very good to have your own advice, since you are already in this space and learning since a few years. Well, Kelly, thank you very much for all the insights you provided us today. And I'm very happy that you joined the board again. I'm pretty sure that being all together as women as well, and without maybe the technical background that some of the people in that space have, we can contribute to also create a more complementary Web3 space. And I was very happy to hear about all the different knowledge that you shared today, and I hope it will also be useful to the ones that will listen to our interview. And I'm looking forward to build together 2024. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.